So the ADL, or Anti-Defamation League, as it's called, the original idea of this thing is that it's supposed to be like an anti-extremism group, like a counter-extremism group, where they monitor things like anti-Semitism and various forms of bigotry and hatred, and they sort of lead the charge against those things. But without a doubt, in recent years, they've become an extremist group in their own respect. So, for example, I'm sure you all remember when Elon Musk did multiple Zig Heils. Well, they were out there to sort of downplay it and pretend like, bro, he's just awkward. He's just got autism. He gets excited sometimes, bro. Like, it's no big deal. So in other words, they disregarded all of the context around the Zig Heils, where Elon, leading up to that, had been repeatedly on Twitter retweeting white nationalists and Nazi accounts, responding to Nazi arguments by saying things like, "You have told the actual truth." He went on to support the AfD in Germany, far-right party. He very clearly and openly embraces eugenics. But the fact of the matter is that since Elon Musk had made an effort to be pro-Israel, they overlooked the actual anti-Semitism. I believe he traveled, with like Ben Shapiro to Auschwitz, and he made an effort to he met with Netanyahu and shit. And so to the ADL, if you're actually anti-Semitic but you're pro-Israel, they let you slide. Which says what? Perhaps what they're more concerned about is not anti-Semitism. Perhaps what they're more concerned about is anti-Zionism. They're concerned about critics of Israel. And so over time, this has only become worse and worse. This has only become more prominent and more obvious that this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to protect the image of Israel at all costs. And they're not actually looking out for the rise of anti-Semitism. So this is now, I believe, the second or third time that Jonathan Greenblatt, who's the head of the ADL, has come out and said something which indicates that he would like to see Hasan Piker, the political Twitch streamer, deplatformed. Listen to this.
And what I really want is, whether it's social media influencers on Twitch and YouTube like Hasan Piker, or other kind of promoters of hate on YouTube and TikTok like Guy Christensen, or these speakers at these graduations. It just happened the other day at MIT, spreading blood libels about the Jewish people or the Jewish state. It creates the conditions in which this kind of act is happening with increasing frequency. We've got to stop it once and for all. I hope the Trump administration will do just that.
Stop it how? What are you talking about? And by the way, notice the conflation he made there? He said, these people are spreading blood libel about the Jewish people or the Jewish state, conflating those things. Well, hold on now. Criticizing the Jewish people, by and large, generalizing about the Jewish people and saying bad things, that is anti-Semitism. Criticizing the Jewish state, so in other words, criticizing Israel, that's called politics. You can criticize any government. Criticizing a government is not bigotry by definition. But this is what he's trying to do. And this is very dangerous for anti-Semitism, because you degrade the meaning of the word when now you flipped it and you say, if you criticize the genocidal atrocities and the war crimes committed by Netanyahu and his thugs, you actually hate all Jews. So this is disgusting. He's actually undermining anti-Semitism by doing this. And remember, Hasan Piker, I don't know how many times, Jesus Christ, it has to be 1,000 times, I've heard Hasan say repeatedly, we are pro-Jewish. We are just anti the ethno-state, apartheid state of Israel and their genocidal atrocity in Gaza and their mission creep in taking over the West Bank. He's regularly cited that American Jews lead the charge against all the atrocities of Israel. So to pretend like Hasan is out there spreading bigotry and hatred, it's literally the opposite. What he's doing is he's trying to protect innocent Palestinians from being murdered simply because they're Palestinian. But he's not done yet. So he's on a crusade, y'all. Here's another one. This is on CBS, and he makes it even a little more clear.
In an environment where you have graduation speakers spreading blood libels.
By the way, this is spreading blood libels. No, this is they criticize Israel. Greenblatt calls the pro-Palestine anti-genocide protest that went on a whole bunch of college campuses recently, he calls that anti-Semitic. So you know where he's coming from. This is the weaponization of identity politics to protect a far-right extremist genocidal government. That's what this is.
Social media influencers making baseless claims. People like Hasan Piker over on Twitch, or
He's obsessed. He's on a crusade to get Hasan Piker deplatformed and censored. That's what he's doing.
There's others on TikTok and Instagram saying wild, baseless things about Jews, about Zionists, about Israelis.
Hasan is not taking shots at Jews. No, he's going after the Israeli government. And by the way, if you're not going after the Israeli government at this point, you're a monster. How many hospitals have they bombed? How many schools have they bombed? How many paramedics have they killed? How many UN buildings have they attacked? The New York Times ran an article about how Israeli snipers are murdering children by shooting them in the head. There was that story about how they bulldozed a bunch of paramedics, put them in a mass grave, and then lied about doing it after the fact. There was just a massacre where they said, oh, come here for food and aid, and then a whole bunch of Palestinians went there, and then they murdered them on the way. To not criticize Israel at this point is unacceptable.
That this could even get worse. So I think we really need tech platforms to step up and stop, lifting up these intemperate voices. We need elected officials to speak out. We need people from all walks of life to stand with their Jewish friends and neighbors today, maybe show up for their own walk next weekend.
This is so disingenuous. You had Lindsey Graham the other day say that, make a joke about how Greta Thunberg, she's on this flotilla to deliver aid to starving Palestinians. And you had Lindsey Graham out there saying, I hope she knows how to swim. Basically giving the green light, like, hey, Israel, attack the ship with these innocent civilians who are trying to deliver food to starving people. Did he say anything about that? Did he say anything about Representative Randy Fine going out there and saying we should nuke Gaza like Hiroshima and Nagasaki? He didn't say anything about that. This guy is a hack fraud. The guy, I'm out here fighting against hatred. Well, if it's anti-Palestinian hatred, you don't say dick. In fact, all the evidence indicates you low-key support that.
And say we won't be intimidated by the bigots.
Because I look at social media now, and many of these platforms, I mean, the dominant characteristic that I see is what you're describing: anti-Semitism, racism, misogyny, and the spread of misinformation. So how to combat that? What is the ADL doing? I mean, are you having conversations with the leaders of these companies to at least try to remove that nefarious content from their platforms?
Yeah, Vlad, we've talked about this before over the years. I think social media is a super spreader, as you said, of anti-Semitism and racism, all kinds of hate. Unfortunately, companies like X and Meta have retreated from content moderation in recent months, introducing these community notes, which is by no means a panacea. I mean, Vlad, it's a little crazy that the most sophisticated, profitable companies on the planet Earth are outsourcing content moderation to the users. So yeah, we are seeing a rampant, just explosion of hate. We are not only talking to the companies themselves, we're talking to the regulators. I mean, I think it is time for government to step up here. These companies are, they say too big to fail. These companies are too big to just leave alone. I mean, they're almost monopolistic. And again, they allow for this unmitigated rise of the kind of hate that explodes in real life, just like you're seeing on the screen. So yeah, it is time for these companies to demonstrate the same kind of accountability that we see in other media businesses and simply, knock the Nazis, knock the anti-Zionists off the platform once and for all.
He literally just said it. He said, knock the Nazis, and then he says, knock the anti-Zionists off the platform. Hold on. You're saying the only acceptable position is to be a Zionist? You're not allowed to be anti-Zionist? Understand what Zionism is. Zionism is the belief in an official Jewish ethno-state. That's what Zionism is. So in other words, if you simply believe in secular democracy, like what most enlightened, civilized people would believe in, then they're saying that's unacceptable because that means you're anti-Zionist. If you believe in secularism, you can't have secular democratic Zionism. Zionism by its very nature is exclusionary because it says this is a Jewish ethno-state, which means by definition you put some people above others, right? He's conflating Nazis with anti-Zionists. That is the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I really cannot adequately express to you how dangerous this is and how disturbing this is and how ugly this is. By the way, he's whining about misinformation. You want to talk about misinformation? How about all of the misinformation that's been coming out of the Israeli government from top government officials who are lying and saying there wasn't a massacre with all these people trying to get food. I don't know what you're talking about. It goes from there wasn't a massacre to, okay, there was a massacre, but it was Hamas, to, okay, we have no evidence of that, but we're going to keep repeating it. And they just lie. Everything's just a fucking lie. They still lie about, oh, we're not starving the Palestinians. I don't know what you're talking about. The fuck are you talking about? This is not debatable. You did it for like 80 days. And even now, it's just a trickle of aid, and you're using it to try to ethnically cleanse them and move them from one area to another when you're not just flat out killing them. This is disgusting, man. This is disturbing. The weaponization of victimhood, like we've never seen it so clear. Oh my God. By the way, I got more for you. So now this is hitting a fever pitch. Censor them. Conflate Nazis with anti-Zionists who are simply against genocide and against carpet bombing children. So, like I said, this is hitting a fever pitch. So here's an IDF veteran who goes on Fox News, and listen to what he pitches to the White House. Ready? Here we go.
I have just built, Sean, the first AI-powered threat detection system for law enforcement that scans the open web for radicalization and tactical planning. And if somebody in the Trump administration is listening, partner with me and let's scale this and get local law enforcement the tools they need. My technology will prevent these threats from popping off. You have to get in front of these. The technology's here. The Israeli model meets Palantir quality engineering, and I've got it, and the White House needs to give me a buzz, and let's get this thing scaled nationally, and it's called Gideon.
So he's got an AI program to prevent radicalization online. Well, hold on. As I just described to you, this man is an IDF veteran. You would be radical. You would be extreme. Enforcing the policies of an apartheid ethno-state, which relies on subjugation. Who would fit in your definition of radicalized? Gee, that's a tough one. Let me think about it. So all the Trump people, all the MAGA people, they all get a pass because he agrees with Trump and MAGA and he wants to work with Trump and MAGA. But anti-Zionist, pro-Palestinian people, oh, radicalization. They might be giving material support to terrorism based on some shit I pulled out of my ass. Therefore, censor them, ban them, deplatform them. These are all the same people who used to pretend like they were all about freedom of speech. But they only meant it when a shitty comedian told a racist joke, right? When it's actually like free speech, like, hey, stop bombing those children. Kick them off the internet, radicalized, insane extremist. This is so Orwellian. And then as we know, the Palantir thing happened the other day where Trump is trying to create a mass surveillance blackmail database on all Americans. I got more. Here we go.
This is a version of a mind virus. It's very different from when I was doing counterterrorism here domestically and, involved with the federal agencies and stuff coming in from overseas. It was outside in those days. You were worried about Al-Qaeda having a sleeper cell here. You were worried about ISIS weaponizing people over the internet. It was sort of foreign based. Now the incubators are here. They're on the campuses. They're even in the high schools. They're online. And it's a whole new host of threat vectors that you have to go at, and it's even harder.
So what he's doing is comparing pro-Palestine protesters, anti-genocide protesters, people who want to stop the violence and get peace. He's comparing them very plainly to ISIS and Al-Qaeda. I hate to tell you, but the much more direct who's acting more like ISIS and Al-Qaeda in this moment? When you're carpet bombing babies, starving innocent people, setting up aid centers, then murdering people as they go to it, bombing hospitals relentlessly, when 90% of Gaza is fucking rubble. Who's acting more like ISIS? Who's acting more like Al-Qaeda? But somehow, if you support Netanyahu and the Israeli government, that's not radicalization. That's just normal. That's just acceptable. They are gaslighting us on a level we've never fucking seen before. I mean, this truly is beyond disturbing. They literally want to criminalize being pro-Palestine, being anti-genocide, being vocal about that. They literally, and they want to conflate you with Nazis. They want to kick you offline. They want to censor you. They want to silence you, which means what? They're trying to make it illegal to oppose mass murder. And not in my wildest dreams could I have imagined we'd go this awry in this country. But we have. So everybody needs to speak the fuck up and realize what's happening. This is like total 1984 Orwellian police state shit. And I don't have any faith and confidence in the Trump regime to reject this fever pitch and these calls for basically censoring anti-Zionists, censoring left-wingers and pro-Palestine folks and anti-genocide protesters. We already had a crackdown under the Biden regime. It got even worse under the Trump regime with them, rounding up people like Rumaisa Ozturk Mahmoud Khalil. They want to put that on steroids, bro, and human growth hormone. That's what they want to do. We cannot allow them to do this. I mean, we've lost our goddamn minds. If the only people in the country that actually have a conscience, the people in the country who are standing up against child murder, the official numbers say it's about 50,000 dead Palestinians, about 90% of which are civilians. Wrong. The real number is anywhere from 200,000 to 400,000 dead Palestinians. So if you point at that and say, I'm against that and I'm going to speak up about it, you're the one they want to ban. You are. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.